Yeah.
It was just a Delgado.
Oh, okay.
It's gone now.
I think yeah, should be.
Thank you.
Judge, do you expect any witnesses today?
I don't believe so.
Will I just join it and and turn off the camera?
You want me to do that?
No, I said, should I join that device and turn off the camera or leave it out?
I'll leave it out. Okay, positions 2 and 3. 2 and 3 are Mr. Bryant. Do we have Ms. Patel? There's Ms. Patel. And Mr. Bryant is right there. How you doing, Mr. Bryant?
Good, how are you?
I'm doing well. I can hear you real clearly. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
All right. Ms. Patel, can you hear us all?
Yes, Judge.
Excellent. Well, Mr. Bryant has a theft case and a burglary case on for final plea. Are we able to have the final plea discussion, or are there other matters we need to work through in Mr. Bryant's cases?
Your Honor, I received an offer from the state yesterday that I haven't had a chance to talk to my client about. So I'd ask if we could be moved to a breakout room to discuss that, and then I should have an answer for you.
We will do that. All right. So, Mr. Bryant, you're going to get a little notice on your device inviting you to a breakout room. If you go there, you and Ms. Patel will be able to speak privately. We can't see you or hear you, and you'll be able to do your thing till you guys come back and join us, okay?
Okay.
So let me get you and Ms. Patel there. All right, the invitation should pop up. You join that room, and then when you're done, you just exit the room. You'll be back with us. Thanks. Ms. Hall, as I understand it, you are going to be the criminal history expert for today. You got information from Ms. Crawford, is that right?
Only for my defendants, though, Your Honor. So yes.
Okay, your cases. All right,
Yeah.
That'll work. Let's jump to position 4. That's Ms. Barker, and I saw Ms. Ingram on. Good morning, Ms. Ingram.
Good morning, Your Honor. How are you?
Fine. And Mr. Chopra is on, and is Ms. Barker on?
Yes, I'm here.
There's Ms. Barker holding her head. All right. So, Mr. Chopra, you sent an email. You reached out to Ms. Nelson indicating that maybe this case was going to sort out. I needed to hear from you as well as Ms. Ingram as to what remained and what kind of time frame we're looking at, rather than simply saying, well, we'll see you guys sometime soon. So why don't we start with you, Ms. Ingram, letting me know where you think we are with the case, and then we'll hear from Ms. Barker's attorney and see what the plan is.
Okay. Your Honor, we are very close to coming to a negotiated plea. The last terms that was discussed between Mr. Chopra and I are the plea, all the conditions, and the main, excuse me, the main issue right now, not really an issue, but I know Ms. Barker will need more time, is the restitution in this case. The total restitution amount is a little over $360,000, in addition to community service and stay away orders and all that good stuff. And so the money is what Mr. Chopra wanted more time on for his client, but I'll let him speak on that because he can go in more detail for you.
Okay, well, I'll hear from him in a second, but help me understand, and maybe he needs to explain it. If everyone is agreed on what the restitution is, then it sounds like Ms. Barker ought to then get under sentence and start having that obligation of her sentence to pay all that money back. Is the plan instead to have some of it in hand before she enters a plea, or what's, I don't understand the need for more time.
Well, we were discussing a down payment amount, and
Okay.
normally in the white collar cases, because the money is so significant, the defendants will provide a down payment. And so in order to give her more time to do that, and get her financials in order to tell me how her payment plan will, pan out to pay the money back. That's what we were, what Mr. Chopra was requesting more time to do.
Okay. But your sense, Ms. Ingram, is that the basic framework of the negotiated plea, not that it binds me, but at least the one that the two parties would agree to, is in place. It's just a question of timing now?
For the most part, that is my understanding. Again, I'll let Mr. Chopra go into more detail, but that is my understanding from speaking with him on yesterday.
Okay, and when you say for the most part, are there aspects of it that you're not comfortable with, or nope?
No, I'm good with all the conditions, and it sounds like he and I are on the same page. It's just the money, just the money portion of it.
Okay. Well, Mr. Chopra, tell me what's going on from the defense side of things, please.
Judge, it's a 25-count indictment. We're going through this on a line item basis. Ms. Ingram's been very approachable. I do think we have 98% of this worked out. I'll only talk to her about which counts specifically. There may be some redundancy. There's an amount that we need to come to the table with. Although it's not significant in relation to the whole, it's significant in terms of essentially a good faith showing that we're going to go forward and try to make this attempt. So having said that, it has only recently been something that we've been able to resolve. I think some of that had to do with the victim's Bill of Rights, making sure that communication was done, but we're close. We would need, I would say on the safe side, 6 weeks. To 8 weeks, hopefully, to get that sum of money together and iron out the exact charges that we're pleading guilty to. Although we assume there will be a significant number of them.
Can you say that last part again? You assume it will be what?
Significant number of the 25 counts, Your Honor.
Okay.
But as between ID fraud, financial ID, since it's a financial crime, I just need to go over that a little bit more with Ms. Ingram.
Okay, so if we put this back on for a final plea date in late January, is that enough time?
It's certainly a fair amount of time, Your Honor. I can only push my client as far as she can go.
Okay, well, I understand that. Eventually, I'm going to reach a point where it's time to resolve it or not resolve it, and the state can be happy or less happy with the amount of down payment that can be made, but ultimately there'll be the obligation pursuant to a sentence, assuming Ms. Barker's entering a plea, to pay the remainder. So I want to strike the right balance between resolution, and the victims are certainly entitled to that, and Ms. Barker having enough time to, as you put it, get her affairs in order. So I'll work with, pardon me?
If you had a February judge, there would be no way for us to move away from that, but we do understand if you'd prefer January.
Okay, no, that's why I'm asking. So I'll work with Ms. Nelson. We'll get a date in early February to put this back on a final plea calendar. And if it's been resolved by then, great. If it hasn't, I'm going to ask Ms. Ingram to put on the record what the state's recommendation is. And if Ms. Barker isn't in a position to move forward on that date, then we just move the case to a trial calendar. And the only significant change is that Ms. Barker would lose her ability to withdraw her plea if she didn't like the sentence that I gave her, if she did enter a plea. But we'll set it down for a February final plea date, and either get everyone here in court, or if remote appearances is how folks want to do it, that's perfectly acceptable, and we'll just repeat what we're doing here. Ms. Ingram, anything else for the state in Ms. Barker's case?
No, Your Honor, that was it for me.
Okay. Ms. Barker, do you have any questions for me?
Not, thank you.
Okay. Well, Mr. Chopra, thank you for dialing in, and we will get you all on a calendar in February for final plea.
Perfect. Appreciate all your efforts, Your Honor. Can we be excused?
Yes, sir.
Sounds good. Thank you, Your Honor.
Ms. Patel, I see that you and Mr. Bryant are back. Tell me what's going on.
Your Honor, I discussed the offer with Mr. Bryant, and it is a fair offer that we do want to accept. We are just going to ask if Your Honor would allow us a 1 or 2 week reset. This is his first time in trouble, and I did promise his mother that I would talk to both of them about the process and what all his obligations would be with the conditions that Ms. Hall is placing on him. And so I think I can have a conversation this week, but I just don't want to rush him, especially without him being able to talk to his mother.
Okay, I'm fine with that. If Ms. Hall is and Ms. Nelson thinks that we've got room on a calendar somewhere, obviously it won't be official notice to you and Mr. Bryant. We can agree on a date and time now, but it would be nice to resolve this before the year is out.
Right.
I know Mr. Franklin is going to be relatively scarce this month. Ms. Patel, are you around over the next few weeks?
I'll be around. I am just going to be on leave from the 24th to the 30th. So the entire period before I'll be available. And similar to Mr. Franklin, I can make myself available that week following Christmas as well, as long as I have notice of the date.
Sure. And Ms. Hall, what about you? Are you more or less available up until the winter holidays start?
I am less available, Your Honor. I am out the 21st through the 4th of January. I believe we have calendars coming up the week of the 14th, though. I am around, so obviously I'll be here for those calendars, and that'll be 2 weeks if we want to put it back for that week. But other than that, I won't be around.
So you're here through the 18th is a Friday. You're here through the 18th.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, and that's all I'm expecting of the team. I have the honor of being the presiding judge Christmas week, so I'll be here in the courthouse all week, Christmas week. But I think we've only scheduled certain specific things that week of the 21st where the lawyers are aware of it. We're not trying to have general calendars, but we'll see. I'll work with Ms. Nelson on that. So if we aimed for the 17th or the 18th, I'm just looking at what we have. On the 17th, there's
Conference for trial.
yeah, that's your case with Mr. Bowles, Ms. Hall?
It is.
Okay, so if we maybe did it right after that, would that work for you?
That works, Your Honor.
Since you'll be dialing in anyway. So Ms. Patel, what if we did 10:30 on December 17th?
That would work for me, Your Honor.
Okay. Mr. Bryant, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Are you working? Are you in school? What's going on for you these days?
Yes, I'm actually doing both as of now.
Okay, so I hope we won't be interrupting too much, but I think we're going to try to get you back on a screen or here in court, whatever you and Ms. Patel decide is most effective for your plea on Thursday, the 17th at 10:30. So you know right now that's something you can do, or do you have to check?
Oh, is it going to be on like the same deal as the video call thing?
Well, that's up to you and Ms. Patel to sort out. You are welcome to call in like this. You also can come into court. I don't require folks to come to court these days.
Oh, okay then. Well then, yeah. Yes, I'll definitely be able to, as long as this is still an option.
Okay. And Ms. Patel was mentioning something about your mom. Ms. Patel, was it more so that you wanted a chance to speak with her, or to give Mr. Bryant's mother a chance to be present for the plea?
Last I talked to her, I think she did want to be able to video into the plea. And so I explained that once I knew what the offer was, I tried to get her that information. But I also do want to have a conversation with all three of us together.
Okay, well then let's reset positions 2 and 3, Mr. Bryant's 2 cases, to Thursday, the 17th at 10:30. We're not publishing a calendar for that. That's too soon, too close in time for that. But I'll have Ms. Nelson, who's becoming an expert at this, to generate a Zoom invitation that will go to you, Ms. Patel, and you, Ms. Hall. And then Ms. Patel, you can forward it to Mr. Bryant and his mom if she's going to be joining us, okay?
Yes, Judge, thank you.
Does that work still for you, Ms. Hall?
Yes, Your Honor.
Great. All right. And Ms. Nelson, was I getting out of my lane in setting that up, or is this okay?
It's okay. I gave you a thumbs up.
All right. Excellent. Well, thank you, everyone, for collaborating. All right, Mr. Bryant, you are free to go. Just make sure you get in touch with Ms. Patel, okay?
Yes, sir.
Thanks.
Thank you.
All right, that gets us to position 5, which is State versus Boyce. Ms. Boyce is here. All right, Ms. Boyce, if you don't mind, if you'd go sit, I think the prosecution table is open. If you'd go sit be to your right, the table to your right, please. And there's Ms. Hodge. Good morning, Ms. Hodge.
Good morning, Your Honor. How are you?
I'm okay.
Can you put yourself in this chair, please?
All right, there's Ms. Boyce. Ms. Patel, can you see Ms. Boyce?
Yes, Judge.
Great. So Ms. Boyce, your case is on for a final plea. Ms. Patel, are we able to go forward with that, or are there other things we need to address?
I don't think I can move forward with that yet. I would ask for a 1-month reset. I did receive an offer from Ms. Hodge a couple days ago. I had trouble getting to Boyce. I was hoping she could give me a good phone number for her because I tried her a couple times this past week.
Okay, well, we'll work on that. Is that the reason for the additional time is not that you're missing discovery, it's that you've been missing a client?
Partially unable to communicate with her, but on my end, I explained to Ms. Hodge that there were some things that Ms. Boyce was going to try to get together so that we could present it to Ms. Hodge in an effort to potentially get an offer that is slightly more favorable. The offer is a decent offer, but there is a condition that I'm trying to get proof of that was fulfilled. And so I just really need time to sit down with Ms. Boyce and get all her documents together so I can provide it to Ms. Hodge.
So if we reset this for a January final plea, that would give you the time you need?
Yes.
Okay.
It should give us both the time that we need. I believe Ms. Boyce might already have.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Ms. Patel, you went silent for a minute. You said you're not on mute. I don't know what happened, but you said you think Ms. Boyce might have some of the things.
Yes.
In court today that I can then provide to Ms. Hodge.
Okay. Well, let me check with Ms. Hodge. Ms. Hodge, if we were to reset the final plea for Ms. Boyce to January, any reason right now that would prevent you from keeping the offer open that you've made?
No, Your Honor.
Okay. Anything from the state that you want to share that I ought to be thinking about in terms of extending the final plea date or not?
No, Your Honor.
Okay. Ms. Boyce, do you have any questions for me? Ms. Boyce has got a bunch of stuff with her.
Yeah.
So we need to figure out how to get you two to connect. And I know, Ms. Patel, you want a phone number. We don't necessarily need to share that over the World Wide Web. What's the best way? Do you have a phone with you?
Yes.
Okay. Could she text you something, Ms. Patel? Well, but then
I do have a Google Voice number that she could text me at. Let me pull that up.
it sounds like you, Ms. Boyce, and Ms. Patel need to talk.
Yes, yes, sir.
And she certainly can meet with you. She's coming in remotely today, which is often how we do these things. But before you leave, I want to make sure you've sent her your phone number.
Okay.
So that you guys can connect, because we're going to have you come back in January, and things will need to be sorted out then, or we'll need to move your case to a trial calendar. Let me make sure we've got a good address for you. Did you get something in the mail?
Yes, sir.
Telling you to be here?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so it sounds like we probably do have a good address.
What I can do is, Ms. Snyder, if I could text you that information once I find it, and if it's possible, would you be willing?
What if we make it easier? What if Ms. Boyce gives Ms. Snyder Ms. Boyce's telephone number, and then Ms. Snyder can send that to you?
My phone was cracked probably when you called. That's why I brought all this stuff.
Okay, well, just write it down right there, and we'll make sure that it's double correct.
Read that.
4495756.
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Boyce, I've got an address for you on Boulder View.
Yes, sir. 2054 Boulder View Drive.
Yeah, good. Okay, so you will get something in the mail telling you when you need to be here in January. Ideally, from what Ms. Patel was saying, to try to work your case out. But you and Ms. Patel will need to connect so that she can get from you the paperwork. She'll share it with the prosecutor, and the three of you will see if there's a way to further advance the discussions. So Ms. Patel, Ms. Boyce gave her number to Ms. Snyder, who should be sending it to you. Just want to make sure you get it before we let everyone go.
I just received it, Your Honor.
Great. All right. So Ms. Boyce, any reason why if Ms. Patel calls that number, it shouldn't get to you? Was it not working in the past?
No, I had to get my phone fixed.
Okay.
The screen was cracked.
But it's fixed now?
Yes.
Okay. So cracked screen is all better.
Yes.
Ms. Patel, you can connect with Ms. Boyce. Anything else you want to relay to her right now? What she should do with all these papers?
Ms. Boyce, if you have the time, I can try to come to the courthouse right after this to grab it.
That'll work too. That'll work.
I'll reach out to you as soon as I'm done with this and call you.
Okay. Okay.
Okay.
All right. So you can sit tight in the courtroom.
Okay.
We only have a few more positions, and then Ms. Patel will give you a call and figure out where to meet.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
You bet. Oops, something's coming out. All right. So our next two positions involve Mr. Delgado.
Yes.
Mr. Delgado is here, and Ms. Snyder is here.
Yes, sir. That'll be a negotiated plea to BHTC on both cases.
Both cases. Okay. And out of the magic machine is popping the two indictments.
And then-
Ms. Hall, you good to go? It sounds like these are going to be pleas for Mr. Delgado.
You're right there, okay?
I am, Your Honor. If I can just have maybe 60 seconds to finish pulling up the cases.
No problem.
Judge, did Ms. Nelson send you the BHTC order that Mr. Abrams forwarded us yesterday?
Yes, I'm
Okay.
pretty sure, Ms. Nelson, we send each other lots of paperwork. I've already done the Delgado. No, I think I did Ellis.
I printed a copy if you need it.
Okay. Ms. Nelson, I think we did the order for Mr. Ellis, but I don't think I've done an order for Mr. Delgado. Do you know?
That's correct. We did Ellis.
Okay, then I've got some from Ms. Snyder right here. So I'll take a look at those, see if they're the magic forms. Thank you.
They came straight from Mr. Abrams, so hopefully they will be.
Yes, these are good. Okay. All right, yeah, the one for Ellis looked remarkably like this. Okay, so when Ms. Hall is ready, we'll do that.
I'm ready, Your Honor.
Okay. What's easier for you?
Well, because of that plexiglass, that microphone.
I guess we could have them at different microphones. Ms. Snyder, what's your preference? We do need Mr. Delgado at a microphone and a camera so that he can be seen.
The podium is fine, and
Okay.
if that
You're
works
welcome to
for-
stay right there. If you guys need to confer, might get all that on the record. Do you mind being at the podium, Mr. Delgado?
Okay.
Okay. Let's start out this format, and if that doesn't work, we can always switch. So let me look at the cameras. Yep, everyone we need is right there. Okay.
So make sure everybody can hear, because mine still says it's muted, so I don't.
But it's supposed to say muted. Are you able to hear Ms. Snyder, Ms. Hall?
Yes, Your Honor.
Yeah. Don't be alarmed by the mute. The microphones are working. If it wasn't muted, then I think we'd get some reverb. All right, well, let's get on the record. On position 6 and 7, both are cases of Mr. Delgado's. There's 18 SC 157514 charging Mr. Delgado with entering auto and another offense. And there's a co-defendant in that case who's resolved her charges. And then 19 SC 171402, a few charges including criminal attempt to enter auto. Mr. Delgado, it's my understanding that you are prepared today to enter pleas in both those cases. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And as part of your plea, I think you're going to end up participating in one of our accountability courts, but we'll talk about that more after we've gotten through part of the conversation. Ms. Hall, who you can see on the screen there, is the prosecutor handling your cases. She's going to put you under oath in just a moment. Once you're under oath, it's important that you answer her questions and mine, because I'll have a few, truthfully and completely. If you have any questions of your own, any concerns, anything that's not making sense because it's going differently than what Ms. Snyder may have told you to expect, will you let me or Ms. Snyder know?
Yes.
And if you two need to speak privately, you can step away from the microphone and you guys can chat. I'll make that opportunity available, but otherwise we'll keep you up at the podium, okay?
Yes, sir.
All right, Ms. Hall.
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Delgado, can you please raise your right hand? Do you swear or affirm the testimony you should give in the matter currently before this court should be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
You may lower your hand. Please state your true, correct, and legal name.
John Douglas Delgado.
And are you at this time taking or under the influence of any alcohol, drugs, or medicine?
No, ma'am.
Is there any medication that you normally take that you have not been given today?
I usually take Zoloft. I haven't took it this morning though.
You used to take Zoloft. When did you last take it?
Oh, yesterday. I just didn't take it this morning. I kind of was rushing out the house. So I didn't
You're
take-
you're wetting it out?
I said I was rushing out of the house this
Oh,
morning.
you were rushing out of the
Yeah,
house.
so I
Got
didn't
it.
take it.
Okay.
didn't take it.
Does the fact that you didn't take the medicine this morning make you in any way unable to follow what we're talking about?
Oh, no, sir.
Okay.
No, sir.
And what do you take Zoloft for?
Oh, depression?
Okay. But you're feeling okay right now?
Yes, sir.
All right.
And Mr. Delgado, how old are you and how far have you gone in school?
I'm 27 and I went to 8th grade.
And are you able to read, write, and understand the English language?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you understand that, I'm sorry, in indictment 18 SC 157514, do you understand that you've been charged with entering an automobile and theft by taking?
Yes, ma'am.
And in case 19 SC 171402, do you understand that you've been charged with criminal attempt to commit enter an automobile, obstruction of a law enforcement officer, giving false information to a law enforcement officer, and loitering and prowling?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you understand that you have the right to plead either guilty or not guilty to those charges in both of those indictments? And if you plead not guilty or remain silent, you may receive a jury trial.
Yes, ma'am.
Have you had enough time to speak with your attorney,
Yes,
Ms.
ma'am.
Snyder, about all the facts and circumstances known to you regarding the charges in these indictments, including any potential defenses?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you need more time to discuss this case with your attorney?
No, ma'am.
Are you satisfied with her services?
Yes, ma'am.
Counsel, do you waive formal reading of the indictment?
So waived.
Do you waive any and all defects in the indictment, including with respect to the defendant's name?
For the purpose of this plea only, so waived.
And do you waive moving forward on a copy of the indictment?
So waived.
Ms. Delgado, have you been arrested on the charges in these indictments?
Yes, ma'am.
I ask because the state is unaware of any outstanding warrants that are related to either of these charges. Do you or your attorney know of any outstanding warrants related to these charges?
No, ma'am.
Has your attorney advised you of the minimum and maximum to the sentences for the charges that, I'm sorry, has your attorney advised you of the minimum and maximum sentence for the charges that you're pleading to?
Yes, ma'am.
The minimum and maximum for entering automobile is 1 to 5 years to serve. The minimum and maximum for criminal attempt to commit entering automobile is 1 to 2.5 years to serve. The remainder of your charges, theft by taking, obstruction of law enforcement officer, giving false information to a law enforcement officer, and loitering and prowling are all 12 months to serve. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you understand this is a negotiated plea of guilty, which means the state will recommend in case 18 SC 157514, 5 to serve 1, commuted to time served upon special condition that you enter and complete BHTC, and then 12 months probation for the theft by taking. In indictment 19 SC 171402, the state's recommendation for the criminal attempt to commit automobile. I guess we can figure the sentence out later. Originally, it was 5 serve 1 so that you could enter into the program, but that is outside of the statute, the limitation for that particular charge. So that would be from the state 2.5 years to serve 1. I don't know if that creates an issue for that program or not, Your Honor. But the remaining charges for those misdemeanors are 12 months probation, condition that he enter and complete BHTC. Mr. Delgado, do you understand that the court does not have to accept that recommendation? The court can sentence you to the maximum on either of these charges in these cases and can run those sentences consecutively or one after another.
Yes, ma'am.
Do you understand this is a guilty plea which is permanently recorded on your criminal history?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you understand that this guilty plea may be used to enhance sentencing on other convictions in this jurisdiction as well as other jurisdictions, including the federal courts?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you understand if you're currently on probation or parole, your probation or parole may be revoked based on you entering a guilty plea today?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you understand if you're placed on probation of any kind, you cannot violate any criminal laws of any governmental unit or any special conditions of probation without being subject to revocation for the balance of the sentence.
Yes, ma'am.
Do you understand if you're not a United States citizen, a guilty plea conviction will affect your immigration status and will result in deportation, just as a conviction at trial would? And this is true regardless of any advice by your attorney or anyone else.
Yes, ma'am.
Do you understand that by pleading guilty to a felony, if you use, receive, possess, or transport a firearm or use a firearm in a crime, you will be guilty of a felony, which may carry a sentence of 1 to 15 years in prison?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you understand that you waive any and all defenses, including any mental health defenses, by entering a plea of guilty?
Can you say that one more time?
Do you understand that you waive any and all of your any defenses that you may have against these charges that the state have brought against you? That includes any mental health defenses that you may have by entering this plea of guilty. So any defenses that you may have to say that maybe this wasn't you, you give them up by taking this plea,
Yes,
or
ma'am.
by saying that you're guilty.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Do you understand that if you went to trial, you have the right to a trial by jury, the right to see, hear, and confront witnesses called to testify against you, and the right to remain silent and not incriminate yourself?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you understand that by pleading guilty, you're giving up the following rights: the right to a trial by jury, the right to remain silent and not incriminate yourself, the right to confront witnesses against you, the right to the assistance of counsel hired by you or to court-appointed counsel, the right to the presumption of innocence, the right to testify on your own behalf and to present other evidence, the right to subpoena witnesses and compel the production of evidence, the right to have the charges against you proved beyond a reasonable doubt, and the right to appeal if convicted of these charges after a trial.
Yes, ma'am.
Has anyone forced, threatened, or promised you anything to get you to enter a guilty plea?
No, ma'am.
Is it your decision to waive these rights and enter a guilty plea because you're in fact guilty?
Yes, ma'am.
In indictment number 18SC157514, how do you plead to the charges of entering an automobile and theft by taking?
Guilty.
And is this guilty plea freely and voluntarily given with full knowledge of the charges against you?
Yes.
Do you understand that you only have a limited right to appeal this guilty plea conviction?
Yes, ma'am.
In case number 19SC171402, do you understand that you've been charged with criminal attempt to commit entering an automobile, obstruction of a law enforcement officer, giving false information to a law enforcement officer, and loitering and prowling?
Yes, ma'am.
I'm sorry, I may have not said that right. I was asking, how do you plead to those charges?
Guilty.
Thank you. I'm sorry, that may have been my mistake. Is this guilty plea freely and voluntarily given with full knowledge of the charges against you?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you understand that you only have a limited right to appeal this guilty plea conviction?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you understand that you only have 4 years from today for a felony charge and 12 months from today for a misdemeanor charge to file a habeas corpus petition challenging the voluntariness of this guilty plea?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Your Honor, if I can have one moment. While I was reading the litany, my Odyssey closed out on me.
Okay.
While I pull that up though, Your Honor, the state is aware of 3, the defendant doesn't have any active probation, but he did have 3 prior convictions, all 3 out of Fulton County. The latest goes back to 2012. It is all 2 are entering automobile cases. One is a theft by taking, 12 SC 111981 for the oldest one, which is a disposition of November 2012. Then there's 13 SC 123706. That disposition is January the 9th, 2015. And then there's a 14 SC 125665, which is the theft by taking, and disposition date was January the 9th, 2015.
And your understanding from communications with Officer Crawford is that none of those is open and active?
That is correct, Your Honor.
Okay.
No, none that are active. One more second. I'm logging in. Okay.
Miss Hollis, please.
Okay, Your Honor, I'm having issues getting back to my documents, so I would just do the best I can with the notes that I have on my calendars. And Ms. Snyder, if you can help me with the address, if you don't mind. But Your Honor, had the case in 18 SC 157514 proceeded to trial. The state would have proven that on February the 1st, 2018, officers were dispatched to a location off of Hallamille Road. That's in Fulton County. The victim stated that he went out to his car after parking his car in the parking lot, that he went out to his car and noticed that his rear window had been broken into. There was surveillance that was captured once officers arrived on that scene. They were able to identify what vehicle was used. When they could see on the surveillance that there was a male and a female, the male being the one that entered the vehicle, the victim's vehicle, and they saw which car or what type of car they got into. They were able to run that tag. It was a Toyota, can't remember the type, but it was a Toyota vehicle, which once they ran it, it came back to an individual that said her daughter's boyfriend was driving the vehicle. Once that information was given, that was the defendant's information. It was confirmed that the defendant, I'm sorry, Your Honor, that the defendant was in fact the person that was breaking into the Mr. John, the victim's vehicle. I apologize for the horrible facts. I'm just going off of my memory. But I believe that is everything in that case and how the defendant was identified. It was based on the vehicle that he was driving and someone confirming that he was the one driving at that time. In 19 SC 172402, in that case also happened in Fulton County off of Piedmont Road. And that was an incident where officers were also called out for break-ins into vehicles. And I'm not good with my memory on this case. 1 second, Your Honor, I apologize.
Well, it sounds like in this one, Mr. Delgado was actually caught. He ran, was caught, gave a fake name, actually didn't get into the vehicle. He was trying to, another Jeep Cherokee. That's how this case caught up with him, is that he was actually apprehended at or near the scene.
Yes, Your Honor, that is correct. He parked his vehicle beside the vehicle that was broken into, but wasn't successful in getting to the vehicle and then ran, gave the false information. Yes, Your Honor, all that was correct. Thank you. Okay. And it was also in Fulton County. I apologize for my errors.
It's okay. Ms. Snyder, anything you want to add about the facts? I'll come back to you more comprehensively in a minute.
No, sir, we can stipulate to a factual basis.
For both of the indictments.
Yes, and I have the actual addresses if you would like those.
Sure.
In the 18 SC, it's 1016 Howell Mill Road Northwest. And then in the 19 SC, it's 2323 Piedmont Road.
Okay, and did it say what's at those addresses?
The Piedmont Road one is an apartment complex, and the only thing that the information from the 18 SC is that it's a parking lot. It didn't really say what kind of parking lot.
The 1016 Howell Mill?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. Ms. Hall, anything else?
No, I was trying to still sign in. I don't like to not give all my information, but no, nothing else from the state.
So I have a couple questions for you. Looks like 1016 Howell Mill is a set of lots, so it's apartments on Howell Mill. It's a West Midtown location. Restitution, the 18 SC case, we've got a victim and the theft by taking was less than $1,500 worth of electronics. Is there anything I need to hear from Ms. Rolak about victim impact or anything you're seeking to collect in terms of restitution, Ms. Hall?
So I'm almost certain there's no victim impact statement from Ms. Rolak. We did speak with the victim. He's no longer interested in the case. It's been so long.
Sure.
So there's no restitution being requested from him.
All right. Ms. Rolak, anything from you?
That is correct, Judge. Good morning. He declined to make a statement.
Okay. All right. I'm glad I checked. Thank you. All right, Mr. Delgado, I've got a couple questions for you, and then I'll hear from Ms. Snyder about what she thinks we ought to do, and we'll go from there. So you're 27, and I think you said you went through 8th grade? Okay, you have a GED?
No, I actually was working on it when I was in prison, but I've been detained.
Okay, and you were in prison for some of these older cases? For how long?
From 2014 to 16.
Okay, so for a little while, for entering auto cases.
Yeah, and it was in probation too. So I just ran everything in concurrent and just took the probation at the same time.
Okay, so you had an open case, caught new charges, pled to the new charges, and got revoked.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. But you were trying to get your GED. Is it you ran out of time, or
they offered me? They told me I could stay, but I wasn't going to stay. I was ready to come home.
Understand. But if I were to make as a condition of your sentence that you get your GED, it's something that you're able to do. It's just a question of timing, or are there reasons why you cannot get a GED? Okay, good. I think it'll be helpful.
Yeah.
How long were you in roughly for either of these cases? Did you spend time in jail before you bonded out? More than like a day, or was it one of these in and out?
I didn't bond out. One, I did 12 months in Fulton County. It's been some little time, some 6 months, some years. 8 months
Okay,
like that.
in connection because you didn't get a bond right away. I guess you had to have a bond at some point because one happened in February of 2018, and then in August of 2019, you're out on the streets again. So you got out for the 18 SC one at some point.
The 18th SC, I didn't even get locked up behind it. I didn't ever get locked up for that until last year when I just got locked up for in 19.
Okay. So the 19 is the one that you were in for a while.
Yes, the 18 case was a direct indictment.
Okay. So I see there was a bond, an appearance bond in November of 2019. So I guess you were only in for three months. Okay. Yeah, Judge Reeder gave you a $7,000 bond through pretrial services. I guess you've been on that bond since then, so almost a year.
Yeah.
With an ankle monitor.
With you still wearing an ankle monitor?
Yeah.
How are you paying for that?
I haven't been able to for the last couple of months because I haven't had a job, but it ain't been nothing like 1 or 2 months since I haven't been able to pay for it. But since last November to then, I was paying for it, and I need this off my legs so I can go back to work.
Okay. You also need to do accountability court, so it's all balanced.
Yeah.
Okay. Let me talk a little bit about the accountability courts. It is an opportunity, and hopefully it's something you benefit from. It's typically for BHTC, where you are headed, in theory, is dual diagnosis, that there's a mental health issue like depression, but also some addiction issue. Is that something that you've dealt with or struggled with? Because you're going to get to BHTC and wonder why you're there if
I mean,
you.
I haven't had no strong addiction. Smoked weed before, but
Okay, but that's not a crime in many states, and it doesn't sound like this. You got to do it every morning.
no, no, I don't.
Okay, but I guess you met with the folks at BHTC, and they are willing to have you in the program. So, did you disclose to them that you don't feel like you are working through an active addiction?
Yes, I told Mr. Kemp. Mr. Kemp, he actually told me that he'll just do it because it'll help. Even though I do, it's not an addiction. It's still help me. I've actually been taking the classes already. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm all for the program. It is 18 months long. It's not a 2-minute program, and you don't have to necessarily every day, 8 hours a day, be involved. Especially right now, things are remote. You'll show up for giving some UAs every once in a while, but otherwise you'll be dialing in Zoom or whatever system they use.
Okay.
But they'll expect you to be involved on a regular basis. So if you can get a job, super. But a job is not an excuse to not show up for BHTC. I need to make sure you understand that.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And they are not okay with someone, I don't know what kind of work you're going to be doing, but if you're going to be a doctor in an emergency room, you can't have like blood on you and you got a scalpel in one hand while you're doing BHTC. You need to be in a quiet, private place when you've got your sessions.
Yes, sir.
You understand that?
Yes, sir.
Okay. What kind of work are you hoping to get back to?
My brother, he has his own towing company for trucks and motorcycles. So it's like, been doing that with him for a little minute. It's actually something that I like to like doing motorcycle stuff. So,
okay,
that's something.
So you pull up in the truck and get the motorcycle on there and get it if it's illegally parked or if it gets its wrecked, you pick it up.
Yeah, but most of them been coming like for people that might break down on their bike. So it's like just for us to come pick you up is gonna be $250. And then that's just for like 10 miles. So if you're going over 10 miles, it's gonna go up.
It's good money.
Yeah, it's good.
Okay. All right. Well, that's a perfectly acceptable line of work as long as it doesn't interfere with your commitment to BHTC. And I'm sharing all this with you because you will be running into some friction if you get kicked out of BHTC. This is a good opportunity for you. It's also something of a break because here we are, convictions 5, 4, and 5, and you're not out there shooting people. I get that, but it's some of this same stuff breaking into cars. And I also get it that it was a while ago, and maybe you've aged out of it. I don't know, but you've been doing real well. It sounds like over the last year and 3 months, which is great. But you're going to need to maintain while you're under sentence for these cases. Do you have any questions about accountability court?
Okay.
Okay. All right. Ms. Snyder, what did you want to share with me about Mr. Delgado and his cases?
Just that, like he said, he's had some tragedy in his life that's led to his depression and his other diagnoses. He is here to make a change in his life. He has stayed out of trouble since he got picked up. He's been on the ankle monitor this whole time, not had any trouble. He wants to do BHTC. He's already started the classes. So we would ask that you accept the plea as negotiated.
Okay. All right. Well, Mr. Delgado, I find that there is a factual basis for both your pleas. Some of these things happened a while ago, over 2 years ago. So it's too bad there's been this lag in you getting help that you want, but at least it's coming now. I also find that your pleas are knowing and voluntary. Voluntary means that you're going forward with these pleas, not because anyone has forced you or coerced you, but because you think it's the right way to move forward. Is that true?
Yes, sir.
And a knowing plea is simply one where the defendant, you understood everything we've been talking about. Is there anything you have questions about that Ms. Hall discussed or that I mentioned? Okay, then I'll accept your pleas in both cases. I'm sentencing you pursuant to the Probation Options Management Act. And all that means is that while you're on probation, if you have a minor or a technical violation, like you miss a meeting, or, and this would be after BHTC, if you're not doing something minor, you and probation will work that out. If you get terminated from BHTC, you'll get in front of a judge. It'll be the judge who's handling BHTC, someone named Judge Richardson for now. Or if you catch new charges, if you're arrested for anything, not only will that likely jeopardize BHTC, but that's the kind of thing that will come back in front of the judge.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So in 18 SC 157514, I'm going to sentence you as to count 1 to 5 years to serve 1 year. I will reduce that year to the time you've already served, and I'll probate the balance. You're going to have 4 years probation, which is more than enough time to complete BHTC. Count 2, which is a misdemeanor, will be 12 months to serve. I'll reduce that to the time you've already served. It'll run concurrently with count 1. So the overall sentence for the 18 SC case is 5 to serve 1, reduced to time served, balance probated. Special condition number 1 is that you will complete the behavioral health treatment course.
Yes, sir.
Special condition number 2 is that at some point while you're on probation, you get your GED or an equivalent.
Yes, sir.
Special condition number 3 is that you will stay away from the apartment complex or lofts at 1016 Howell Mill Road.
Yes, sir.
Any other conditions for that case, Ms. Hall?
No, Your Honor.
Okay. And in 19 SC 171402, your sentence on count 4 is going to be 12 months to serve. That will be reduced to the time that you've already served. Your sentences for counts 3 and 2 will be both 12 months. That will be probated. That will run consecutive to count 4. And your sentence on count 1 will be 2 years. That'll be probated, and that will run consecutive to counts 2 and 3. So that math is 4 years to serve 1 year. The 1 year is reduced to the time you served, and the balance is on probation. So you have 3 years probation in that case. A special condition in that case will be, again, complete BHTC. Another one will be get your GED. And the third will be to stay away from the apartment complex at 2323 Piedmont Road. Anything else in that case, Ms. Hall?
No, Your Honor.
Okay. Ms. Snyder, anything else in Mr. Delgado's cases?
No, sir.
Mr. Delgado, I'm going to ask in a minute, our probation officer has joined the call. I don't think you report to probation, but she's going to correct me. You're going to definitely report to BHTC. You will be on probation while you're in BHTC, but it's not a particularly active probation. Your primary form of supervision comes through BHTC. When you're done, when you graduate from BHTC, there will be time remaining on at least one of the cases, and then you will be supervised by a probation officer. But it's fairly passive while you're in BHTC. But let me ask Officer Crawford if you still need to report to probation to get signed up, or if that would happen through BHTC.
Yes,
That's correct, Judge. He does need to report just to get signed up. The first initial meeting.
Okay, he does need to. And what's a date for him to do that?
It'll be December 23rd
December 23rd,
at 9 a.m.
9 a.m.
But I need to find out if he resides in Fulton County.
Okay, we'll figure that out in just a minute. And it's the Memorial Drive address.
That's going to be dependent on if he's in Fulton County, if he resides.
Okay. Let me make sure, Mr. Delgado, your address is the same here as where you are now. I've got you on Stone Road.
Yes, sir.
Apartment H7.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Yes, ma'am. He lives in Fulton County.
Yes, sir. So it will be 276 Memorial Drive, Southwest, Atlanta, Georgia, 30303. That'll be December 23rd, 9 a.m.
Okay. Do you need any information from him, or the fact that his address in the system is the right one is good for you?
Give me 1 second. Let me check.
And we can email you info. I don't need you to be doing a lot of work where you are. So that's Christmas Eve that you'll need to show up there.
My little sister's birthday.
All right. How old is she?
She's 26.
Because technically that's a little sister, one year behind you. We can celebrate after you show up at that place.
Yeah. No, she's in Belgium anyway.
Belgium? What's she doing in Belgium?
The Air Force.
Wow. Okay.
That's correct, Judge. I have the correct address in the system.
Okay. Thank you for checking on that. So I think we are all set. The last question I've got, Mr. Delgado, normally you would sign each of these indictments and we'd pass all the papers around, but we're trying not to pass papers around. Do you authorize me to sign your 2 indictments indicating your guilty plea?
Yes, sir.
Ms. Snyder?
Yes, sir.
And Ms. Hall?
Yes, Your Honor.
Great. Then I think we're done. Just check with Ms. Snyder to see if she needs anything else. I wish you the best with this. My hope is that you've turned a sort of maturity corner, whatever it is, and you're done with entering auto. Those are very unpopular crimes right now in the neighborhoods where you were doing them, and they're going to come down hard on you.
Yeah, I'm done.
Good. Drive the tow truck, take your medication, get your GED, chart a new, brighter future. Okay?
Yes, sir.
All right. Good luck with everything.
All right, thank
Your Honor, that concludes my business. May I be excused?
you.
Yes, you don't have Mr. Ellis. That's right. The long-awaited matter with Mr. Ellis. Thank you, ma'am, for dialing in.
You're welcome. See you next week. Bye, Marshall.
All right, we are ready for Mr. Ellis. There he is, walking through a hallway, coming into a room. Can you hear me, Mr. Ellis?
Yes, sir. Can you hear
Great.
me?
Can you get to a place where you're standing still?
Yes, that's where I'm headed to now.
Great.
Okay.
You're in a good spot? Looks like a good sunny room.
Yes, sir.
Excellent. All right. Ms. Hodge, are you ready to go forward with Mr. Ellis's case?
I am, Your Honor.
And Ms. Patel?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. Then let's do that. My understanding is that it's a plea. Is it but I don't have the indictment, but I'll get that. Is anything changing? Is it to reduce charges as is?
It's as is, Your Honor. No passing counts 8 and 9.
Okay. We will get to that. Let me get to Mr. Ellis's case here. Ms. Nelson, I'm going to print out the indictment unless you're sending it. Is that okay?
Yes, Judge, that's fine. I can't get into Odyssey in that location.
Okay. Let me get the indictment. All right, sorry about that. I've got the indictment here. So you were saying, well, let's get on the record and we'll go forward. This is position 8, 19 SC 171458, State versus Marcus Ellis. And I believe, Mr. Ellis, you're going to be entering a plea in your case. And Ms. Hodge mentioned that it will be to counts 1 through 7 of the indictment. Counts 8 and 9 are being null pros or dismissed. Is that correct, Ms. Hodge?
Correct, Your Honor.
Is that your understanding, Ms. Patel?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. So Mr. Ellis, a couple things we need to cover before we get started. One, you have a right to be here in court. You've been here before. I've seen you in courtroom 1D before, but you also have a right to appear remotely like you're doing. Are you authorizing me to proceed with your plea with you in a remote location?
Yes, Your Honor.
And you also have a right to have Ms. Patel, your lawyer, in the same place you are so that you two can confer if there are any questions or concerns. But Ms. Patel is where she is, you are somewhere else. It's fine. We can move the two of you into a private breakout room if you need to confer. Are you comfortable, Mr. Ellis, going forward with Ms. Patel in a location different from the place where you are?
Yes.
Okay, you'll let me know if you need to speak with her in private?
Yes, I will, Your Honor.
Great. All right. In just a moment, Ms. Hodge is going to put you under oath, but I need to figure one thing out first. Someone's come into court. We'll try to figure out what's happening. Hardiman. Which one of you is Hardiman? What's your first name? How did you know to be here today? Okay. I wonder if, just give me 1 second. Hardiman, do you have a case number?
I don't have that case number here with me today.
Okay. You spell your name, your last name, Hardeman? Okay. Let's see if we can find it. And your first name? John or Johnny? Well, I-E or Y? Okay. You do have a case. Look at that. You are supposed to be here on the 8th for a final plea. Let me make sure we got the right guy. I'm going to look up your picture here. You're trying to hide. I think it's the same guy, same hair. You live on Guinness Road. Okay, you got the right guy. You may want to reach out to your lawyer. I don't know what wires got crossed with pretrial, but you are on the calendar for the 8th, which is next Tuesday. at 9:30 for a final plea. And Mr. Franklin is your lawyer. You've been in touch with him? Okay. He may be a good person to reach out to, but it's you should have received something in the mail if your address is that address, telling you that it is December 8th, so next Tuesday at 9:30, this courtroom. Do you already have that? No, because that's what they told you. All right, well, you did the right thing. If pretrial told you to be here, I apologize on their behalf that their wires got crossed and that you came down today and took time away from whatever else you were doing. But it is the 8th, Tuesday the 8th at 9:30 in the morning. Hopefully, Mr. Franklin will make contact with you. Are you apartment 3? Okay, you should have gotten something in the mail. I don't know what happened, but we'll see you next Tuesday and we can clear all that up, okay? All right. Sorry about that, folks. See if we can get Mr. Ellis back. You good, Mr. Ellis?
I'm sorry, I just had to step off for a minute. I'm sorry, Your Honor.
No problem. We had to take a break. You've been patient. So Mr. Ellis, we're now ready to go forward. You told me you're okay proceeding remotely. You're not here in court. You're okay proceeding in a different place from your lawyer, but you'll let me know if you need to speak with her in private. And the only thing that's left is that Ms. Hodge is about to put you under oath. Once you're under oath, it's important that you answer all of her questions and my questions truthfully. If you have any questions, you got to pipe up and let me or Ms. Patel know, okay?
Okay, Your Honor.
Great. Ms. Hodge, when you're ready.
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Ellis, please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you shall give in the matter currently before this court shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Thank you. You can lower your hand. Please state your true, correct, and legal name.
Marcus Anthony Ellis.
Are you at this time under the influence of any alcohol, drugs, or medicine?
No.
Is there any medication that you normally take that you have not been given today?
No, they supposed to start it at Grady, but I got an appointment next month for the psychiatrist, so they can start me on the med.
And does not having that medication affect your ability to understand what's going on today?
No, ma'am.
Okay, great. How old are you and how far have you gone in school?
33, the 11th grade.
Are you able to read, write, and understand the English language?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you understand that under indictment number 19-SC-171458, you are charged with the following offenses: 1 count of cruelty to children in the 1st degree, 3 counts of aggravated assault, 3 counts of terroristic threats, 1 count of sexual battery, and 1 count of simple battery?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you understand that you have the right to plead either guilty or not guilty to these charges? And if you plead not guilty or remain silent, you may receive a jury trial?
Yes, I do.
Have you reviewed a waiver of rights form with your attorney?
I probably have.
Okay.
So
We have not reviewed a waiver of rights form. We haven't filled out a waiver of rights form.
Okay. Have you had enough time, Mr. Ellis, to speak with your attorney, Ms. Patel, about all the facts and circumstances known to you regarding the charges in this indictment, including any potential defenses?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you need more time to discuss this case with her?
No, ma'am.
Are you satisfied with her services?
Yes, ma'am.
And do you waive formal reading of the indictment?
You said any form of reading?
Yes, do you waive a formal reading of the indictment?
No, ma'am.
So, Mr. Ellis, the question is kind of, the way it's put is kind of lawyer-esque. Do you want me to read into the record your indictment, or do you understand what you're charged with?
You can read it. I really do know what I'm best charged with.
Okay, I'm happy to read it, but all it's going to do is say, on the 17th of May, 2019, the accused, blah, blah, blah. I can go through all that if you want, or you can say, you don't need to read me the indictment. I understand what I'm charged.
You ain't gotta review it.
Pardon me?
You ain't gotta read it.
I do not need to read it.
You don't have to read it if you don't
Okay.
want to.
Thank you.
But I know all the charges that have been brought against me.
Okay. And Attorney Patel, do you waive any and all defects in the indictment?
We waive.
Okay. And Mr. Ellis, have you been arrested on these charges?
Yes.
Okay.
But
The state,
you saying before dumb charges or?
no,
when?
on these charges, when you were charged.
Yes. I got
Okay.
locked up May 17th, got out October the 11th.
Okay. The state is unaware of any outstanding warrants related to these charges. Ms. Patel, are you aware of any outstanding warrants related to these charges?
We do not.
Okay. And Mr. Ellis, has your attorney advised you of the minimum or maximum sentence for each charge that you're pleading to today?
Yes.
I will go over them. Cruelty to children, the minimum sentence is 5, the maximum is 20 years. Aggravated assault, the minimum sentence is 1 year, the maximum sentence is 20 years. Terroristic threats, the minimum sentence is 1 year and the maximum sentence is 5 years. And again, for the record, the state is null prosing counts 8 and 9, which are both misdemeanors. The maximum charge for each of those is 12 months in jail. Do you understand, Mr. Ellis, that this is a negotiated plea of guilty, which means that the state will recommend a sentence to the court, but the court does not have to accept that recommendation and can impose the maximum sentence for each charge that I just read to you?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And do you understand that that this plea may be used to enhance sentencing on other convictions in the future, either in Fulton County or any other counties, including federal court?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you understand that if you're currently on probation or parole, your probation or parole may be revoked based on entering a plea today?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you understand that if you're placed on probation of any kind, you cannot violate any criminal laws of any governmental unit or any special conditions of probation without being subject to revocation for the balance of the sentence?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you understand that you're not allowed to possess or use a firearm while on probation?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you understand that if you are not a United States citizen, a guilty plea conviction will affect your immigration status and can result in deportation, just like a conviction at trial would?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you understand that neither the court nor your attorney nor the district attorney's office has anything to do with parole, the Department of Corrections or Board of Pardons and Paroles, and no one can guarantee parole no matter what anyone has told you?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you understand there may be other adverse or unfavorable consequences as a result of this guilty plea conviction today? For example, your plea today may affect your right to vote, your right to hold public office, your right to serve on a jury, your right to obtain a passport, your right to receive, possess, or transport a firearm, or your ability to obtain employment.
Yes, ma'am.
Do you understand that by pleading to a felony, if you use, receive, possess, or transport a firearm, or use a firearm in a crime, you will be guilty of a felony, which may carry a sentence of 1 to 15 years in prison?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you understand that you waive any and all defenses, including any mental health defenses, by entering a guilty plea?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you understand that if you went to trial, you would have the right to a trial by jury, the right to see, hear, and confront witnesses called to testify against you, and the right to testify or remain silent? And by pleading guilty today, you are giving up all of those rights?
Yes, ma'am.
Has anyone forced, threatened, or promised you anything to get you to enter a guilty plea today?
No, ma'am.
Is it your decision to waive your rights and enter a guilty plea because you are in fact guilty?
Yes, ma'am.
Is this guilty plea freely and voluntarily given with full knowledge of the charges against you?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you understand that you may have a limited right to appeal this guilty plea conviction?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you understand that you only have 4 years from today to file a petition challenging the voluntariness of this guilty plea?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Your Honor, had this case gone to trial, the state expects that the evidence would have shown that on May 17th of 2019, Officer Smith with the College Park Police Department was dispatched to 6655 Dorian Drive, Union City, that's in Fulton County. Upon arrival, Officer Smith overheard Mr. Ellis yelling, "I'm going to shoot them bitches," to Jacqueline Ellis and Natoya Knight. He was able to calm Mr. Ellis down and spoke with a witness, Ms. Hattie Ellis, who reported to the officer that Mr. Ellis had gotten into an argument with the juvenile there, Jakayla and
It's Jakayla Keith.
Jakayla Keith.
Yes.
Thank you. And during that argument, Mr. Ellis picked Jakayla up and threw her out of the room. Jakayla called her mother, Jacqueline Ellis. Her mother arrived to the scene, and her mother, Jacqueline Ellis, along with her friend, Natoya Knight, confronted Mr. Ellis. They got into an argument. Mr. Ellis picked up a pole and threatened them and struck them both with the pole, and then threatened them in the presence of Officer Smith. Based on that, Mr. Ellis was arrested and charged accordingly. The state's recommendation in this case is for count 1, 5 years, serve 1 year, commuted to time served, balance on probation. A condition of probation is to enter and successfully complete 18 months of BHTC. Count 2 to run concurrent with count 1. Counts 3 and 4 to merge into count 2. Count 5 to run concurrent with count 1. Counts 5 and 6 to merge into count 5, and counts 7 and 8 null prost.
So a couple things. One, I think you said merge 5 and 6 into 5. I think you mean 6 and 7 into 5.
I did, yeah.
And then 8 and 9 are the null process. But when you say merge, do you mean run concurrently, or do you think legally the sentences, let's just take the aggravated assaults. Do you think legally the sentences for counts 3 and 4, which are assaults on separate individuals, that they merge into 2?
No, Your Honor. Actually, thank you for pointing that out. They do not merge legally because they are different victims. So let me correct the record and say they will run concurrent.
So it sounds like the overall sentence you're looking for is 5 years to serve 1 year. That 1 year is reduced to the time Mr. Ellis has already served, and then it's 4 years probation. Is that a fair statement?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. And then we've got BHTC. What are the no contact, stay away, because we've got family members involved. My recollection is that Jakayla, which is spelled, by the way, Jakayla in the indictment, that Jakayla's mother is Mr. Ellis's sister.
Correct.
So that would make Jakayla, I guess, Mr. Ellis's niece. So we've got family in the mix. Is there any stay away provision that the state is seeking, or anything I need to be processing in that direction?
Well, Your Honor, the state is not going to ask for a stay away from that location, because that location, as you will recall, is the grandmother of the mother of Mr. Ellis. That's her home. She was fine with Mr. Ellis coming there, but the problem is when the whole family gets together there. So we won't impose a stay away, but we will ask for no contact with Jakayla Keith, Natoya Knight, and Jacqueline, the mother of Jakayla, the sister.
Okay, and I'll hear from Ms. Patel on this, but what you're asking for and Ms. Rolak may be able to amplify on this, would be that Mr. Ellis should have no contact, direct or indirect, with his sister, his niece, and then his sister's friend. I assume that third one's not particularly controversial, but I just want to make sure, because that creates some complicated fault lines, as you observe, Ms. Hodge. If Jacqueline Ellis is over at her mother's house, that means that Marcus Ellis cannot be there because he needs to stay away, not from his mom, not from his mom's house, but he needs to stay away from his sister. If that's something you're asking for, it's not unreasonable given the facts of the case, but I don't want to impose that kind of condition lightly. Ms. Rolak's face has appeared. Do you have anything from any of the victims in this case, Ms. Rolak?
I have a written statement, Judge, but that is exactly how she feels, Miss Jacqueline Ellis.
She would like the no contact?
Yes, Judge.
Okay, on her behalf, her daughter's behalf, and her friend's behalf.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you for sharing that. Ms. Hodge, I interrupted you. You were going through the recommended sentence. So if you had more you wanted to share, I'm ready to listen.
That's it, Your Honor. I was just going to add the no contact provision. And that's it for the recommendation. In terms of Mr. Ellis's criminal history, he has 4 prior felony convictions, all from Fulton County. 2008 Fulton County conviction for entering auto, 2011 Fulton County conviction for robbery by snatching, a 2012 Fulton County conviction for robbery by force, and a 2014 Fulton County conviction for terroristic threats.
Okay.
Nothing further from the state, Your Honor.
Do you know if any of those cases is open right now, or they're all closed?
It's my understanding they're all closed.
Okay. Officer Crawford, I'm sorry to bug you, but is Mr. Ellis on active probation right now? She may join us if she can. It doesn't sound like it. Ms. Patel, what do you want to share about Mr. Ellis in this case?
Your Honor, I've known Mr. Ellis for well over a year now. The journey towards this resolution has been long, but I think that the time it's taken was required and needed to get to where we are. In my time of knowing Mr. Ellis, what I've come to realize is that what he's needed is structure and direction. If I tell him to do something, he does everything he can to do it. And I think that while his mother and his grandmother love him very much, they have not been able to provide the direction and structure that he needs to do well. And I think that this program will be great for Mr. Ellis because it'll provide him with the assistance as well as the accountability. I've always been able to explain to Mr. Ellis, if you don't do X, then this will happen. And that is something that he, at that point, understands and then acts on to prevent something like the bad thing from happening. And so he has, since I met him when he was incarcerated, has done quite a bit to show to me that I think he's serious about the program and about trying to avoid being in a situation like this again. The family dynamic is very complicated, and I think that he understands. And at this point, I don't think he wants to have any contact with his sister. When I first talked to her, she did not want to prosecute this case. That was a long time ago. But they just have a very tumultuous relationship. And so I think that the separation from his sister, the separation that he's had since this case has been healthy for him. And I hope that he does well in the program. He's shown me at least that he's been able to stay out of trouble since this case.
And how long was Mr. Ellis in custody on these charges before he bonded out? Ballpark.
I believe it was 5 months, maybe a little bit over that. I was trying to look it up earlier today, but my VPN is not working.
Okay.
It was like 5 months, almost 5 months.
Okay.
I got locked up May 17th, got out October the 7th, but they didn't release me to the 11th because I had to wait on my leg monitor.
Okay. Well, you know those numbers. You're right. About 5 months. Okay. Mr. Ellis, I've got a few questions for you. So currently you're not taking any medication, but your expectation is that through treatment at Grady, you will begin to take medication. Is that right?
Yes, Your Honor. And it's they gave me something, but it was through a syringe, through a needle, and they did not tell me the name of it. I had to go through the paperwork and see it's in there. But when I found out the name of that medicine, they say it lasts 30 days, and I had to send it to Miss Patel email.
Okay. But right now you're not taking any medication.
Last time I took it, it was last month when they had took me to the psych ward at the hospital at Atlanta Medical.
Okay. And what have the doctors told you the medicine is going to help with?
They said, but for my bipolar diagnosis.
Okay. But you've been able to follow what we've been talking about today. You don't have any questions other than when you do ask a question, you haven't had any?
Okay, I do got a question. Like she say, 5 years served one. I don't got to do no more jail time, do I?
No, well, I haven't pronounced the sentence yet, but what I intend to do, so you're not surprised, is reduce that 1 year to the time you've already served. So whether it was 5 months or 4.5 or 5 months and a week, you've done the equivalent of the year. So what you'll have is 4 years of probation. The only reason why you go back to jail is if you get kicked out of BHTC. If you do well at BHTC, life is good.
I'm not trying to get kicked out of it. I'm not.
Good.
I'm not trying to go back to jail.
Good. That's a good goal to have. Mr. Ellis, do you have housing now, or does BHTC need to help you with housing?
I stay with my cousin.
And your cousin knows that you'll be doing BHTC?
Yes, she does. Miss Patel got her information. Her name is Brianna Rainey.
Okay, I don't need the address. They'll need it at BHTC. I just wanted to make sure you had a good roof over your head.
Yes, I do, Your Honor.
Okay. All right. And you heard us talking a little bit about having to stay away from your sister and your niece and your sister's friend. It sounds like that's a smart idea, not because you're going to go out and hurt them, but it sounds like you two get into it from time to time, and it would be better for everyone if you didn't. Are you going to be able to comply with that requirement that you just stay away from your sister?
I can.
Okay. Does that mean you will not be able to see your mom or your grandma, or will you still be able to see them?
My sister would be going over there, so probably not.
Okay. Well, maybe you can call and figure out when you can do that. But that is going to be a requirement. It may be that we modify that after a while, but for now, that's how we're going to handle things.
Okay.
Ms. Patel, I'm sorry, did you have another question?
Yes. What day can I get my leg monitor off?
I didn't know. So you've got an ankle monitor. That should come off once you start BHTC. I guess, is that part of pretrial supervision, Ms. Patel?
You know, if I take since I'm taking my final plea, I'm not gonna be up on the pretrial services no more.
Okay.
It is trial services, Your Honor, the ankle monitor.
Keep going.
I believe it was ordered by Judge Reeder that he have an ankle monitor and report to pretrial services.
So then it should come off, Mr. Ellis, once your sentence, the thing we're doing today, gets processed. If I were you, I would ask at BHTC, what do I need to do to get the ankle monitor off? They're friends with pretrial, and they'll be able to figure out what needs to happen to get that off, okay?
Okay, because like I talked to my pretrial officer Monday, and he said if I take the plea, that it will come off, and he said to call him today after I do the virtual and let him know what's going on. But like
Great.
I say,
That's an even better idea. That's more direct than going through BHTC. So if you know your pretrial officer, you got a number for him. When we're done here today, you will have entered your plea, and you're not on pretrial supervision anymore. You're going to be on probation. So you should definitely call him, and they'll get it off you. Okay.
Okay.
All right. Ms. Patel, Ms. Hodge may have covered this. I just didn't make a note of it. Do you waive any issues flowing from the fact that we are proceeding on a copy of Mr. Ellis's indictment?
Yes, Your Honor, we waive those issues.
Okay. Mr. Ellis, I find there's a factual basis for your plea that back in May of last year. What? What'd you say, Mr. Ellis? Can you say that again?
It's something wrong with your I could not hear nothing. I could not hear nothing you just said, Your Honor.
Oh, okay. I asked your lawyer if she had any objection to going forward on a copy of your indictment. Your original indictment is in a folder somewhere in the clerk's office. She said there's no problem with that. Okay. All right, I'm going to keep going. Mr. Ellis, I find there's a factual basis for your plea.
Okay.
In other words, what happened on May 17th of 2019 was enough to support these charges. I also find that your plea is knowing and voluntary. A knowing plea is one where a defendant understands all the things that were discussed with him. Did you understand everything Ms. Hodge said to you?
Yes, I do, Your Honor.
Do you have any other questions for me at this time?
No, I don't, Your Honor.
A voluntary plea is one that is not forced or the product of any threats or anything like that. Are you entering this plea, Mr. Ellis, because that's how you want to move forward?
Yes, I am, Your Honor.
I'm sentencing you pursuant to the Probation Options Management Act, which means, Mr. Ellis, that while you are on probation, which you'll be for 4 years, if you have a small or what we call a technical violation, you and probation will sort that out. But if it is something more serious, which would be getting kicked out of BHTC, getting arrested again, those kinds of things will get you in front of a judge. I'm going to sentence you, having accepted your plea, to 5 years to serve 1 year. That 1 year will be reduced to the time you've already served, so that 5 months or so that you served last year from May to October. And the balance will be on probation. So you're going to have 4 years probation. And that sentence is for counts 1 through 7. It's the same sentence for all 7 counts. They'll run concurrently with each other. Counts 8 and 9 are being dismissed, and I'll put a stamp on the indictment that makes that clear. It will be a special condition of your probation, Mr. Ellis, that you complete BHTC. Ms. Hodge mentioned 18 months. Sometimes it takes longer than that. You will do it as long as it takes for you to graduate, which I know you can do. You sound like a smart guy, and if you've got some good structure and we get you on the right medications, finishing BHTC should not be a problem. Okay. While you're on probation, you cannot have any contact. That means no writing, no calling, don't show up at the same place with your sister, that's Jacqueline Ellis, her daughter, Jakila Keith, or her friend, Natoya Knight.
Okay.
That's all I've got. We need to make sure you do have to report to probation. You will not be spending much time with probation while you're in BHTC. That's going to be your primary supervision.
but you're actually technically on probation the whole time you're in BHTC. So you're going to start BHTC right away. But probation is going to want you to report one time so they can get you signed up. And then they're going to sort of stay out of the way as long as things are going well at BHTC. Okay?
Okay. How I'm gonna get the probation information?
We're going to get it for you in just a minute. Ms. Rolock, did you have anything you wanted to add?
Judge, I've been in communication with Miss Jacqueline Ellis, and she wanted to say that she doesn't agree with the sentence. She didn't agree with the offer. She wants to, well, she wrote a letter just now, and I let her know that I will ask for it to be placed in the file.
Okay, we'll definitely get the letter in the file, and I hear clearly that Ms. Ellis is not comfortable with this sentence. I assume she wanted more jail time. I don't know what would be different about the sentence. We're getting Mr. Ellis help, assistance, and structure, all good things. And I would hope that Ms. Ellis would want these important things for her brother. Did she share with you, Ms. Rolock, what additionally she would want to see in a sentence?
Judge, she did mention that she wanted some jail time.
Okay, beyond, I guess, the nearly 6 months that Mr. Ellis was already in jail. And I hear her, and I understand that. It sounds like something very frightening happened to her and her daughter and her friend last May. I think it is important to observe Mr. Ellis has done pretty well on the ankle monitor, and he's got new housing, and he's about to get into a pretty rigorous program of treatment and support, which is, I think, a helpful development for everyone. But I appreciate you sharing that. Anything else from Ms. Ellis?
That would be it, Judge.
Pardon me?
That would be it.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
So we lost Officer Crawford. She was at a fairly remote location. Oops, she's coming back in. Officer Crawford, if you're able to hear me, we need to get a report date for Mr. Ellis.
Hey, Judge, I have the same date. He's going to report December 23rd at 9 a.m. to 276 Memorial Drive Southwest, Atlanta, Georgia, 30303.
Okay, we'll make sure that I'll share that with him again right now, and I'll make sure Ms. Patel gets it to him. She may have a phone number she can text that to.
She could email me, or you could email me. I give you my email address.
So I'll let Ms. Patel do that.
Okay.
But I'm going to tell you on the record, so you hear it from me, Mr. Ellis. You will need to report to probation's Fulton County headquarters, which is at 276 Memorial Drive, about 2 blocks from the courthouse, on December 23rd, December 23 at 9 a.m. Ms. Patel will send you an email with that same information, but you do not want to miss that date, because then they're going to reach out to me saying the guy is already running from us. So December 23, 9 a.m. at 276 Memorial Drive. Ms. Patel, do you have a good email address for Mr. Ellis?
I do, Your Honor.
Great. Ms. Hodge, do you have anything else in Mr. Ellis's case?
No, Your Honor. Thank you.
Mr. Ellis, if you were here in court, you would sign your indictment indicating your plea of guilty, but you are wherever you are now, not in court. Do you authorize me to sign the indictment for you?
I do.
Okay. Ms. Patel, may I sign on your behalf?
Yes, Your Honor.
And Ms. Hodge?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. Ms. Patel, anything else for Mr. Ellis?
No, Your Honor.
Well, I want to thank both Ms. Patel and Ms. Hodge for collaborating on this case. I know it's been around for a while. Mr. Ellis has come to court a bunch of times. We've got him on the phone a bunch of times. I think it's important to note that he has not missed any court, whether he's appeared virtually or in person. And that's a good sign that Mr. Ellis is trying to head in the right direction. Mr. Ellis, you've got a complicated situation with your family. I hope you're thoughtful about how you proceed with that. And I hope you keep taking care of yourself. We need to get you on that medication. And you need to make sure you've plugged in with BHTC, okay?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, Mr. Ellis, do you have any other questions?
No, Your Honor.
All right, well, that is it. Thank you, everyone.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
And I think that's it for today. Well, that is it for today. We have only civil matters the rest of the week. So I think I'll see some of you next Tuesday. Until then, be safe.